Hello and welcome to another episode of Anything Goes Hokkaido video and audio podcast. We are so excited to be here today. I am Delana and my co-host.
Yes, it's Shinya. I'm back with Delana, yes.
Yeah, we should have these intros down by now, but they're still a little tricky sometimes.
Anything goes, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And today we have a really special guest, very prominent feature, I think, in our Hokkaido community. It is the owner of Hokkaido Nature Tours, Ido. I want to say Gabay. Gabay. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I even practiced and I messed it up. Ido Gabay is with us today. Ido, hi.
Hello. Don't worry about messing it up. My whole life, people have messed up my name, and I'm still here, still smiling. So no worries.
I am in that same boat with you. I can't tell you how many different ways people have pronounced Delana over the years, especially my English teachers would call me Delania for some reason. So yeah, I feel you there.
Yeah.
So Ido, gosh, how's it going?
Well, business-wise, it's not going great. We've all had better days in tourism, but, we're happy and healthy. And in a way, all of this is a way for us to slow down and recharge and kind of tap into what's really important. So that, we can lose sight of all of that pretty quickly, with the busyness of life, especially with the tourism industry. We've seen such rapid growth that it is not the worst thing in the world to slow down and kind of gauge where we're at and how to move forward. We don't have too much concern about ourselves. We feel like as a Hokkaido Nature Tours, we're going to make it through this. And the tourism industry here is resilient. Hokkaido is a major tourist destination. So we're optimistic, even though now is difficult times.
Right, yeah. I can only imagine that the tourism industry has been hit really hard, along with music and entertainment. So, yeah. But you're still there, still going strong, and sounds like you've got some interesting alternative business ideas that we definitely want to hear about during the interview today. But why don't we kind of maybe start from the beginning, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, your last name obviously is a bit unique. I've never heard it before. Where are you from?
So I was born in Israel and lived there until I was 7. And without asking me, my parents took us all to America, and that's where I grew up. So I guess traveling was very early in my life experience, having to relocate. And as a 7-year-old, it's not too hard. I have 2 older siblings. It was more difficult for them. But definitely it's in our bones. And, as Jewish people, there was a large migration to Israel, in the last 100 years from Jews all over the world, including my family. My mother was actually born in the Soviet Union in Lithuania. And she moved to Israel when she was 15. And on my father's side of the family from North Africa, they moved to Egypt. And then about 100 years ago, finally moved into Israel. So we've always been, a people and a family that's moved around a lot. And still it's like that in my family. So myself personally, I grew up in America from the age of 7, went to university, and had a number of interesting experiences there that kind of pushed me out of America. So when I was there, I was studying economics and mathematics. I was going to be on Wall Street, trading stocks and doing finance or whatever it is they do. But I had an interesting experience when I was in university in that I was able with some, advanced credits from high school, I could take a semester off. And during that semester, when my friends were going to Europe mainly or other parts of the world for study abroad, I was in Boston and I had fallen in love with a girl, young love, and we moved in together. She had her 2 dogs, and I had this kind of, temporary job with a finance company called Fidelity Investments, a very big finance company.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I was like 19, 20 years old, working in this finance company. And even though my job was basically like data entry like this, but I could see from the inside what that was like and what the kind of lifestyle of a finance world is like. And so very quickly, I found myself in finance with a girlfriend who was a pseudo wife. We were living together, two small dogs that were like pseudo children, and so it became overwhelming, and it was like a real view into my future. And that
Mm-hmm.
motivated me. I went back to school, of course. I graduated with my friends and had a great experience in university. But I realized that something was lacking. There was something missing, and there was no need to rush into a career. I was just 21 years old, and it was then that I went actually to Israel, and I planned to be there for a while just to see what life is like, because I'd only been on visits since leaving as a kid. And I guess it was an unfortunate time in Israel, but for myself, maybe it was quite fortunate because this was during what's called the Second Intifada. It was a period of war in Israel and very difficult time. So after a couple of months, I said, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of money that I have. I'd sold my car in America, and I'd take this few $1,000s, and I'm going to go to Europe and backpack. And so I bought the cheapest flight from Israel, which at that time was to go to southern Turkey, a place called Antalya. And from there, I started backpacking. And within a week, 2 weeks at the most, I knew that this is what I wanted to do with the next part of my life, was to backpack and see the world. And so from that moment on, it was really just, well, how do I get this done? How do I, achieve this dream of traveling all over the world and being free in the world? And slowly, you meet people, or the universe sends you certain people. And I ended up, after that trip in Europe, moving to South Korea. And that was my first job in Asia, teaching English. And at that time, I was really broke. I'd actually had to borrow money to finish the Europe trip to begin with. So I arrived in Korea with $50 and
Wow.
$1,000 in debt to my dad just to finish that trip, and another $45,000 in debt to the student loans from the university. So classic American university experience. And from there, I started working hard. I was working 2 jobs in Korea just to save up as much money as I could because my heart was still for traveling. And from there, I took about a year and a half or 19-month trip across Asia. And I realized my love for travel was overland travel. In the same way I went from Turkey to, England, overland, pretty much. And then I went from Philippines, I flew to Singapore. I went from Singapore all the way to India, through Southeast Asia and China and Tibet and Nepal, and into India all over land. And that's really what my passion was. And this overland travel was really life-changing for me, and it really allowed me to see, what I want to achieve better in my life, other than just, what my options were when I was just in America and, looking for whatever the next step was going to be in that scheme. So, I really went out into the world. I was fearless about it. I never saw the world as a dangerous place. And I went out and the world welcomed me, and, I met incredible people. I had all kinds of experiences, and so after that trip across Asia, I went to Taiwan, and I worked in Taiwan for a year as a teacher again. And I did another trip for a year, and finally I came to Japan for the first time in 2007. And at that time, my first impression, I came to Hokkaido. I should say I was with a JET program, the government
Yeah. Of
for
course.
English teaching. And it's a great program, actually. I had a lot of great experiences. But when I arrived, my first impression when I landed in Chitose, I still remember coming out of the airplane. And, in Chitose, sometimes you get out of the airplane and you're connected by a causeway, directly to the terminal. But sometimes you get out of the airplane and you kind of walk out of the plane. And so I remember walking out of the plane on that time and looking up, and the sky just looked huge, And right away, I had this great feeling that this place is going to be fantastic for me. This beautiful blue, huge sky, which is not, the sky doesn't look the same everywhere. And that started my time in Hokkaido, and I fell in love with it here. I planned to stay 2 years, and I was 3 years on JET. And then I went again, I got the itchy feet, to go backpacking. And again, I went backpacking. And so that next trip was a 3-year trip, because I'd saved up more money working for 3 years. So
Yeah.
as my family said, oh, you're going to go waste all your money again, but everybody can say what they like. I was very motivated and very driven to see the world and still keep traveling. And on that trip is where I met my wife. We met in northern India. That's where we met Anastasia. And we actually traveled together for 2 years. We had, that was the beginning of our relationship. We didn't have any dating period, any courtship, any, come meet my parents. We were on the road for 2 years. And basically, if you can make it through that, with someone, then there's a good chance you can make it. And after that 3 years of traveling, I really started to feel like we were, kind of at the end of the road. Altogether, that was like 6 years of backpacking for me. And as amazing as those experiences are, all experiences, start to repeat themselves. And we need new challenges and new experiences. And came back to Japan a second time, again on jet. And again, I was very lucky to be assigned to Sapporo. And I was actually living in the same apartment building, just a few floors down from my first time on jet, So it was really like, wow, this place is for me. There's something home about Hokkaido. And after a few more years in the jet program, then we realized that, okay, we can now maybe settle down here a bit more, be a bit less of vagabonds, and start to see what we can create ourselves here. And that's how we started Hokkaido Nature Tours. And the main reason was to find something we love doing, but also to share something that we're passionate about and that we love. And through that love and that, passion for travel, we feel like we have been able to not only find the right team around us, but share that with people from all over the world.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Actually, your wife, Anastasia, is also my yoga instructor. So know her quite well. And she started a nice little project called the Sapporo Yoga Sisters. So if anybody here in Sapporo is watching, females, she doesn't have any men in her classes at this point, I don't think, but definitely when we are allowed to have those kind of classes again. She's an amazing teacher. I've been doing yoga for a while with a variety of teachers, and she's definitely the best I've had. So it's really nice to see how amazing you guys are together, because you came to the first class and you were like taking pictures and carrying stuff and supporting her so beautifully. So it was really touching.
Thanks so much. Yeah, she's really into the female empowerment and for women to come out of all kinds of programming that she's experienced in her life and is coming out of. And it's beautiful to see her sharing that. It's very powerful.
Yeah, really is.
Really through yoga as a vehicle. Yoga is a vehicle for that.
A very good one, too.
And now a quick break for an artist spotlight with Seiichiro Ebisuya.
So obviously we all live here in Hokkaido and know that there are very many special things about it. But what makes tourism in Hokkaido particularly special for you?
And, I think also we live in a world now where there's a lot of problems with safety, and that's for real, like if you go to America, you have to worry about those things. What street are you on at what time, what part of the city, or in Europe, we still largely live in a Japan that's, inured from crime and we don't really need to worry about that. And not only living here, it's a huge blessing, but for visitors to come here, visitors can come and really relax, and really let go. Just feel safe and welcomed and appreciated in Japan, and we definitely appreciate that as well as foreigners living here. We don't take that for granted. So many things. What do you think? What is it for you that makes Hokkaido so special for you?
Shinya?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you said, especially just living in Sapporo. I like the size of the city, not too big, not too small. Definitely the winter can be a bit long. Yes, sometimes, 4 months, maybe sometimes 5 months of winter is quite long. So maybe if it was a bit shorter, it'd be a bit better. But definitely my mother's from Kitami. So already knowing a bit of Hokkaido countryside just feels like going back to my, first home, second home. So yeah, really, really enjoy it because it's part of my family as well. So that's why I like Hokkaido.
Yeah, for me, Sapporo is the perfect city because it is like a metropolis, almost 2 million population, but it feels like a kind of hometown place. And even from the beginning, I would always run into people in unexpected places and just be like, oh, hey, just like in a small town, despite the size of the city. And it's not like Tokyo where you can find anything you want, but almost, there's really nothing I feel that's lacking here, especially since we got Costco. That makes a big difference. And there's nature everywhere, beautiful, gorgeous parks that are run by government or other places. And, you don't have to walk very far to find a nice green space. And the mountains, the city's surrounded. I mean, on a clear day, I'm sure if you're up high, you can see 360 degrees. There's mountains everywhere. And the ocean's nearby. I wish I skied or snowboarded or did stuff like that. It would probably make winter go by so much quicker. And then when you get out of the city, it reminds me of where I was born in Indiana, with just like the rolling hills and the lush greenery and the different seasons. So yeah, I mean, Hokkaido. And of course, it has the best food in the country, I'm sure.
Yes. Especially
I know other people disagree with that. And the flavors of Kyoto.
How can you disagree with that?
I've had arguments about this in the past.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm going to stick to my opinion that it's the best.
Japan imports food from Hokkaido. So there you go.
It's very
a lot of Honshu and other parts of Japan, but Hokkaido is famous for the produce, for the dairy, for the quality of meats. I even once read that most Kobe beef actually originates in Hokkaido, and they just moved them to Kobe at the end of their life. I don't know, the different books say different things, but Hokkaido is definitely the food center of Japan, the food production.
Oh yeah, I think like Tokachi Central Hokkaido provides like 2,000% of the food for Japan, which is a kind of a strange figure to wrap your head around, but true nonetheless. So how has tourism changed in the last 10 years or so since you've been operating your business?
Yeah, we actually haven't been operating that long. We've been in the business here for about 5 years.
Okay.
But I've been here since 2007, And I'm sure Shinya, you can attest, and Delena, you've been here for a long time as well. Like, you know, we see a lot of. You don't have to be in the tourism industry to see the changes that have happened here because of tourism and mass tourism. You know, and also looking at the numbers. You know, when I came here, 2007, 2008, you know, there were under 10 million tourists a year, and you know that number. We're talking about foreign tourists, not domestic, international tourists. And that number just climbed and climbed and climbed. And, you know, even the government did not anticipate the kind of boom that we had in Hokkaido in the last 10 years. So they were hoping for 20 million tourists by the 2020 Olympics, which were supposed to be happening very shortly.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we reached that in Japan in 2016. Like they made those estimates before, like maybe I don't know, 2012, 2013, and they were, you know, we reached 20 million international tourists in 2016, 4 years ahead of time. So then they were like, well, you know, of course we have to set new goals. Okay, let's set a goal for 40 million, you know, and you know, so when you think that we very well could have had 40 million tourists in Japan this year. Last year we had 30 million international tourists. So, you know, we're talking about a fourfold or more increase in 10 years. And that's, you know, that's remarkable for any market. And Hokkaido as well has seen a large chunk of that. Of course, the majority of tourists do go to Honshu, but a lot of returning visitors come to Hokkaido on their second time to Japan if they miss it on the first time. And the majority of those, actually, if you look at the stats, 2/3 of all foreign visitors to Japan are from China, which is 1/3, and then the other third are split between Taiwan and South Korea. So 2/3 of all foreign tourism here is actually regional tourism between China, South Korea, and Taiwan. And I think you guys must have, you know, experienced the rise in the amount of tour buses, and when you go to the tourist sites, the sheer number of people that are there. And for us as well, you know, we've seen it firsthand, not only through, you know, when I was an English teacher here, you know, 10 plus years ago, but even in the last 4 or 5 years as we're operating as a tour company, we just see the numbers of people. And I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know, there's good parts of it, and there's you know, bad parts of it. So, you know, the good parts are obviously, you know, how it's helped the economy and how it's helped the livelihoods of so many people here. Even though it's still quite centered around the mainstream places, like, you know, if you go to the Tomita Farm or BA, or if you go to, you know, Lake Toya and Noboribetsu, right? The places where the mass tourism goes. But it's definitely, you know, created a lot of new jobs in tourism too. We've seen such an explosion in tour guides, in guiding here, both, you know, independent guiding and companies that are looking for guides. It's become a viable industry here, not just a fringe industry, and probably the second industry here after agriculture. So, you know, tourism has really grown and developed. But there are obviously, you know, negatives to that as well. And, you know, a lot of locals, some of them feel like tourism has missed them. You know, if you're from a small village that isn't on the main bus routes, you know, you might not have seen a large increase in number of tourists, and, you know, you even might have seen a decrease because, you know, 20, 30 years ago, there was a big boom in domestic tourism in Japan. And most of the tourism in the 80s and 90s was aimed at domestic tourism. And, you know, domestic tourism had, you know, more time or more comfort to reach the villages. You know, that's very much part of Japanese tourism domestically. You know, all the Michi no Ekis and all the, you know, special products that are made in this town and that town. But the international tourism, like I said, 2/3 of it is China, Korea, and Taiwan, and largely big bus tours. So not all of the, you know, places in Hokkaido have benefited equally. And we've seen really a decrease in the number of towns, rural towns in Hokkaido, in the viability of them, and the decrease of the rural population in Hokkaido. And, you know, you would have thought if there was a 4-fold plus increase in tourism, international tourism, we wouldn't have had those changes. But the demographic changes in Hokkaido are very real. You had JR, the Japan Rails cut down 30% of all their lines last year, and most of that is to rural countrysides. Towns are going bankrupt and having to pool their resources just to offer education or a clinic. So in the countryside, we haven't seen that. And that's unfortunate that we haven't seen the same benefits of tourism that we see in Sapporo or Lake Toya or Niseko, some of the bigger names and places. So that's the unevenness of mass tourism.
Right. For me, I don't actually typically get to go to these places until the last 2 years when I was working for the airport Have Fun in Hokkaido program. I finally got to go to like the Blue Lake and a lot of these like Eastern Hokkaido. But living here 19 years now, I hadn't, like for the first 17 years I was here. But where I do see these trends is in the narration work. And so like when I go in to record English, right before me, after me is maybe Chinese or Korean recording. Also very important to have those languages on the public announcements. And when they change the bus routes or the JR routes, that kind of increase in work. And I've also been like on a commercial for Hokkaido Sweets for like promoting to Taiwan. So seeing that they're working to promote things that way. It's kind of a unique perspective. On a side note, yesterday I had a narration job for the first time in at least a month, thanks to coronavirus, because most of my narration stuff is kind of tourism related lately. And that was for Toyota, the factory in Tomakomai. So they have something called Haskap Vision, which is new, and it's like a panoramic picture, like the super, super long stretched ones. It's video at like 4K and 2 of them. So I don't know how it's actually set up in there, if it's like a 360 kind of view or 180 or something. But I just did a couple of title announcements for that video. So if you want to like check it out, for Tomakomai, it's not a huge tourism place to my understanding, but things I'm directly related with are the Toyota factory. So you can see their new Haskap Vision. It's gorgeous. And also the English guided video tour. I did the narration for that a couple of years ago. And it's quite a few minutes long. Very nice. Also the Wing Hotel International. I teach the staff English there. So if you're looking for a place to stay in Tomakomai, I would recommend that hotel. Okay, so back to our lovely, very fascinating interview. I mean, Ido, you got such a wealth of experience and perspective that very few people probably have working in this industry like you do. So on to the not so fun part, perhaps, is how has coronavirus been affecting your business personally and just Hokkaido in general?
Yeah, well, it's a kind of shock that none of us expected to this extent. Living in Japan, you're always ready for shocks. We live in the ring of fire. Natural calamities are part of the history of Japan, and some of it recent history. If we look at Fukushima, what happened there, that was a natural as well as man-made, we could say, calamity. And that had a big effect on tourism in Japan. That had a big effect. There was a significant dip in tourism, and it lasted about 2 years. But the difference was that it wasn't in such a holistic manner as what's happening now. It was a decrease in tourism, and people who did come, they still trusted that Hokkaido was safe, or Kyushu or Okinawa. There was still tourism happening here, so there was a decrease. It wasn't the wiping out that we're seeing now. Basically, there's a lot of companies that specialize in international tourism. That the domestic market is kind of a different market. As people who know Japanese culture, they have different requirements for travel than a lot of international people, and the market is quite separated. Not too many companies aim at both the domestic and international market. There is a kind of specialization. So if we look at coronavirus, if we look at international arrivals, they're down 99 point, something percent. It's not just a decrease, it's wiped out. And a lot of the industry is reeling right now, whether you're in hotels, because a lot of hotels have also aimed towards international guests. Generally, they spend more than Japanese guests, and they are coming in larger numbers. So a lot of hotels have, in the last 5, 10 years, have pivoted towards international market. There's a lot of hotels that just closed their doors, not permanently, but on a kind of furlough. And we go and we drive around and we see, are they open yet? Are they open yet? And they're not opening up. A lot of hotels are using this time to renovate, perhaps as well. They're trying to make the best of it. A lot of new hotels that were just finished this year or the last couple of years, because there's a lot of investment also, especially in the luxury market, which suffered in Japan, because of the recession from the 90s, or the stagnation, we can say. There wasn't a lot of luxury investment in Hokkaido after the recession. But in the last 10 years, with the growth of international tourism, there's been a lot more investment in luxury. That's when we see places like Niseko, or the Furukawa brand, for example, Furukawa brand, Rokans. They are developing and keep on investing. So these companies that keep on investing, they're really, out of pocket right now. For smaller companies like ourselves, it hurts our guides. It hurts our guides who rely on tours as part of their income. And we have had to make decisions in the office as well that we wouldn't have liked to make otherwise. But smaller companies, as long as there's not too much problems with debt and things like that, maybe we can ride it out. The bigger companies who have a higher overhead, it's going to be a story of who can ride this out and who can survive this time of famine, we can say. Because, when you go from the numbers of visitors that we had to 99% reduction, it's really difficult for companies who are stretched thin or are in debt or running out of loans and out of debt.
For sure. I know I was actually really looking forward to, just as a thing to try, I wanted to be a guide with your company, because our mutual friend Amanda Harlow has been working for you for about the last year, I think.
Yeah,
it looked like so much fun. That I was like, I could do that. I want to do.
I think I think you've been here how many years? 19 years, you said?
19, yeah. So.
And you have a great attitude, and you're already the voice of Sapporo's subway system, right? So.
That is a common misnomer. I'm not actually on the subway cars, but the person who did it sounds exactly like me.
Oh, that was
I am on the undergrounds as of a couple years ago, like the big Chikaho, or that. Like, I think the whole underground, you can hear me doing safety announcements now, but no, mainly JR and Hokuto Kotsu and the streetcar and everywhere else.
Yeah.
So, but it would be fun to try and do tour guides.
Get you trained and see if you like the job.
I know I would love it. And I'm just the kind of person that I never want to do just one thing. I always want to have like narration and music and adding a tour guide thing, because the travel that I get to do when I'm on location filming for these programs it was in my top 3 kind of jobs that I love. It's like, okay, being a tour guide would probably be right up there in things I enjoy. And if I can make money doing it, then that would be fantastic. So maybe it's going to be postponed a little bit more than I expected. But, once the business is up and running, and I know it will be, give me a call. I'm waiting.
We'd be lucky to have you.
Thank you. I would be lucky to work with you guys. I have worked on location. We always have interpreters as part of our camera crew. I don't actually need them, because the director always talks to me directly in Japanese regardless of the situation. But when we're interviewing people who don't speak English for our basically English program, the interpreter will step in and help out with that. So still necessary. And a lot of them are actually more full-time guides than interpreters, usually Japanese women who join us for our team. And I've heard a lot of difficult working situations depending on the company and the expectations or low amount of support. So I know that as far as companies go, Hokkaido Nature Tours is doing something right because you guys just had a spread in National Geographic. Is that right?
Yeah, we were so fortunate. I can't say it was a whole spread, but we actually were part of a team that was from across Japan who guided a number of National Geographic writers for a 12-page feature that they had in their recent May-June publication. And, I guess they so liked what we did and the impression that we made. We actually were the lead in this 12-page feature. And it was really gratifying. We actually, all of our tours, you could say that we treat them like National Geographic anyways. It wasn't that we did anything extra for National Geographic. And the tour is just the writer and myself. So it wasn't that we pulled out all the stuff. We gave our normal, super high quality tour. But I guess they were impressed enough that it was the lead. And it was just an honor. It was just an honor to reach a point where, okay, we have getting recognized for the hard work and the quality of what we do. And I always say, half of our job is done by Hokkaido itself because it really is so amazing. I was able to take the National Geographic writer. His name is Chris Tharp. He's actually a long-term expat from Korea, so he wasn't so new to Asian culture, and he felt quite comfortable being here. But I took him, and he had never been in such an environment. We went in February to Asahidake, and I took him snowshoeing in Asahidake. We went to Teninkyo Gorge, just nearby, went snowshoeing there, and to some very remote areas. And he was just blown away because even though he's lived in, this part of the world for a long time, he never had that kind of experience. So that's the really magic of Hokkaido and magic of what we do to bring people out into the nature. And, of course, we do everything. We're happy. We're a custom-made tour company. So, we create tours around the guest preferences. But for National Geographic, of course, they wanted the nature. And they didn't have much time, so we had to really, be choosy with what we included. But they decided to go for the snowshoeing adventure, and that's what I love as well. So it was such a pleasure. And then, of course, to see ourselves in National Geographic, it's like goosebumps. It's not something that we can ever expect. So it was really an honor. But that's really cool. You can check out that article from our homepage. There's a link to it.
Okay, what is your homepage for our listeners?
Yeah, HokkaidoNatureTours.com.
Okay, that's easy.
Yeah, so simple, yes.
Just remember 2 Ks in Hokkaido.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a snowshoeing tour. What other types of tours do you offer? Because I'm thinking like there's like really backpacking at nature. There's also like glamping and stuff where like staying in hotels. And so tell us like what could we expect if we were trying to pick a tour? Give us the lowdown.
Opportunity. So let me give a bit more information on how our tours run. We have a number of tours like day trips and 2-day tours that are just ready to go, and of course we have sample tours for the longer tours, 5 days, 7 days. We can offer tours for from anybody from a solo traveler to groups of 30 or 40. So our whole thing is we want our guests to travel the way they like. We're not trying to impose our vision of travel on our guests. So if it's a family, let's say with young kids, no problem. We have baby seats for free, put those in the car and let's go have a great trip. If you need to stop in the middle of the day for nap time, we can plan that in the day. Or a group of retirees from Malaysia who want to visit farms and try, harvesting vegetables and then making a soba DIY, no problem. Food DIY workshops. And honestly, most of our tours are a mix of activities because most people that come, they don't want just one thing. But they might say, oh, okay, we're interested in wildlife, in photography, in hiking. We also want some luxury. We want to stay a couple nights in really nice places. Ryokans with kaiseki dinners, maybe in-room onsen. So we are just able to take our expertise of Hokkaido and create these unique itineraries, and we do it on a daily basis. We do it for so many people that contact us, and our itineraries are, we're happy to make itineraries for people based on their preferences at no charge. So that's the work we do because we really feel like, once people see the quality of the tour we can create for them, then a lot of them say, okay, this is the organization, this is the tour company that we want to go with. And then they come and, we might pick them up from the airport or start their tour from Sapporo. Everything's flexible, or maybe from Kushiro Airport, really whatever works with their greater travel plans. And you hit the road, and with one of our guides, all of our guides are, they're all super travelers. We hire guides who love to travel. We don't hire guides who are putting on white gloves and a top hat and they're just like, very stiff. We hire guides that are real people that love to travel, that have a lot of international experience, because ultimately, I think it's very important to understand foreigners' mentality, an international mentality if you're going to be guiding international people. In my experience, somebody who's only, lived in Japan, it's hard to get that experience. So it's really important for us when we hire people that they have a lot of international experience, that they understand that sometimes, the guest might want to change plans in the middle of the day. Or we don't want to go there. We want to, okay, great. We train them how to be flexible, how to make the adjustments. Or they say, we have a specific thing with our diet, and, we didn't tell the planners in advance. Is there something you can help us with? Yeah, of course. We have such a range of restaurants that the guides, database the guides know how to work with and things like that. So we're super flexible. We do all kinds of groups, sometimes honeymoon couple, they want to go propose somewhere special, and we can be part of that. Or, we had one tour that was a multi-generational family. It was a group of maybe 15 and multi-generation. I think it was 3 or 4 generations even. And they're from Vietnam originally. They'd relocated to Australia. And Anastasia was guiding this tour actually. And, they all started to feel really comfortable with Anastasia. And during the bus rides, it just happened spontaneously. They just started talking about their family experiences, what it was like leaving Vietnam. They were part of the boat people leaving Vietnam. And, for that to experience, a lot of the family members hadn't heard those stories, So for us to be able to connect and create this great atmosphere for people to travel and be super comfortable, because our tours are private tours. You're going with your loved ones. You can really be yourself. And I think it's really special and unique. And that's what people cherish, to travel to these places with their loved ones, with their family. And it's really an adventure. We don't know what's going to happen, So that's for us too as the guides. Of course, we do these tours, over and over, all over Hokkaido, so many different places. But when you do it for years and years, obviously, there's a familiarity. So what makes it, interesting for us are the people we meet. And we're super lucky, we really feel blessed by our guests, the kind of quality of people that we meet. And even though it all starts from the tour planning and making sure there's a good tour, all the magic really happens during the tour itself. And, we never lose sight of that, of, the show. It's about Hokkaido. It's about people's experiences. And, when you go see our reviews on TripAdvisor, I think we have 150 reviews now, and all but 4 or 5 of them are 5-star reviews. It's because of that. People see that we put our heart into our work and we make it special for people. It's really fun. Yeah, it's a job with a soul. Yeah.
Those are kind of hard to find these days, so that's fantastic. You can easily tell that you really get a lot of joy out of this work. And man, I want to book a tour. So your business has been focused on people coming from overseas, but what about us here in Hokkaido? It's just now kind of opened up to the point where we can maybe travel a bit within Japan. I know some for a while it was like, please don't even cross over into the next city, even though I live 5 minutes from the next city. So do you have anything going on for us here?
Yes, I appreciate the probe. Like we talked about, our company was one of the companies that focused on international tourism, because there was such a demand, and we feel like we can really contribute to tourism in Hokkaido, to private tourism, by guiding foreigners that are coming. We have not only the international experience and hired the right people, the right team, but we also, are able to meet the expectations of the international market, because we understand. But yeah, now we have this problem. It's a 99% reduction in international visitors. You can't make this stuff up. It's just cataclysmic for the industry. So yeah, we are also trying to pivot and trying to open it up more for domestic. We always had some domestic tourism. We had expat families living in Tokyo, or we even had some Japanese groups that there would be an English speaker and they found us, through Google in English, things like that, because we don't advertise in Japanese. We're really aimed at the English-speaking market. But now we're understanding, we need to develop maybe domestic market, and we need to work with a domestic market. And it's a great time for people who otherwise would have taken their trip to go visit their family, in another country, to take a trip in Japan. Because, as you guys know, there's a lot of people living, like long-term expats or people living here that haven't really seen Japan. And, there's a lot of amazing places to visit in Japan too. So we're hoping that, people will want to come to Hokkaido. I know the government's doing a lot as well with promotions. They've come out recently to support, different restaurants and accommodations in drawing domestic tourism. But we feel the same way. So we're hoping that, we're offering a discount now for the whole summer, actually until middle of September. And who knows, maybe we'll extend that, But
discounts?
Yeah, so
You said discounts?
Yes, discounts. So we're offering 10 to 20% on all of our tours, and depending on the size of your group mainly. So with this discount, it's a great time to experience it a little bit cheaper than otherwise. And what we offer is not just seeing Hokkaido, it's seeing Hokkaido in a private tour. And it's a really different experience for people who have never taken private tours. It's really like stress-free, worry-free. You come, you get picked up, to start your tour, and you can just enjoy every minute, You're not worrying about, is this place going to be closed, or how do I get there, or driving, and you're not super exhausted by the whole process of traveling because you have somebody who's there with you to assist you and guide you and bring the most out of your day, whether it's safely hiking through the mountains and knowing the microclimates and how to stay safe here in Hokkaido, of which there are accidents every year, unfortunately. Or, the great network of activities that we know about, DIYs. Maybe somebody has always wanted to put on a kimono, or always wanted to stay at a farm, for overnight. We have all those. Or the accommodations, the great accommodation network that we know about. Just our expertise. And of course, our guides who are so happy to talk about Hokkaido's history and culture and what it's like to be a dosanko, born and raised in Hokkaido, and any topic. So, the benefits of private tourism, there's so many of them. So we feel like this is a great opportunity for people living in Japan to come experience that in the amazing beauty that is truly Hokkaido. So it's a great time for that.
Absolutely. And taking a look at you mentioned TripAdvisor. You guys have a lot of awards, don't you?
Not a lot, but
not to brag.
Not a lot, but you can.
We're just very proud of our team. Very proud of what we've been able to build here.
Well, I can see here online you've got luxury travel guide for 2020. Yes. Also Travel and Hospitality Awards, THA for 2019 and 2018 consecutively, yes. And the TripAdvisor Annual Certificate of Excellence. So that's pretty high praise.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well. We feel blessed, and whether we have a slowdown this year or not, it's not going to change it. We put our heart into our work, and we make sure every tour is going properly. Every tour is important to us. So I think that's what comes out of that. But yeah, we're blessed to have been chosen, and sometimes we get nominated for awards. Sometimes they have like researchers that look for us, and there's an application process, and they review us. And to win the award is it's not only great for our marketing, but it makes us feel like, okay, like in the travel industry, we're doing something right, Yeah. We're not just in a little bubble, we're doing something right. And recently we had another little feather in our cap, which is next year, still on the schedule. It's supposed to be this year, but it's next year. Hokkaido is hosting a very important summit. It's called the ATWS, which is Adventure Travel World Summit. And the ATWS, it's an annual conference of people in the adventure travel industry. from around the world. Usually they are in the Western Hemisphere because it's mainly Europe and America based and Latin America as well. But they chose Hokkaido for 2020. And unfortunately, that was delayed for 2021, but it's a big deal. The government is promoting it. And so we have been chosen by the government of Hokkaido to offer one of our tours to the participants. That means travel agents and influencers, journalists, government representatives. And that's just another honor, for us, because that's the government saying, we trust you and we want you to represent us on this global stage that's coming to Hokkaido.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you. And, we just feel blessed to be doing something we love. And, I think ultimately, if people do what they love, they're going to find success, ultimately. Like you yourself, Delena, with your singing and, that brought you so many other opportunities, right? Through the years. I don't know how you got into the audio work or the recording, the narration you do, but I imagine
mostly word of mouth. I think because I do put my heart as well into doing an excellent job every time that I can on narration, and a lot of the work, a couple of them have been auditions, but I found out about the auditions from people who said, you need to go do this, like JR. I found out maybe a couple days before the audition. I didn't even know what it was for. Just like a friend of mine in the industry said, oh, Delaney, you need to go do this audition. It's like, okay. And I was chosen for that, and that was great. And the rest, yeah. Like the Toyota thing, just they called me up about 3 days before and just like, can you come in? They didn't even tell me who it was for, what it was for. The night before 10 p.m., I'm like, by the way, do you have a script? Like, what am I doing in the studio tomorrow?
Right.
But it's like trusting me and me trusting the studio. Like, we're going to work it out. It's going to be fine. So yeah, it really makes a difference.
I look forward to seeing you soon in a Toyota ad, a convertible.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, actually, the JR people had, when they heard about this Anything Goes Hokkaido program, they're like, oh, maybe we should, have you do something like commercial. I was like, I'm your girl anytime.
Yes.
On a side note, and I was kind of brainstorming as you were talking, thinking how lovely it would be to hire you to help out with my next big project. I don't think I have the budget for it just yet, but I recorded a new song with former guest David Sweetlow, who's a musician and producer, and it's an amazing experience working with him. In just around a week, we knocked out the entire song. Very professional recording, and I want to release it with a video that features some of Hokkaido's beauty and nature. So I've chosen Lake Shikotsu as my main location for filming, and I'm currently working out all the details about camera crews and equipment, and there's a lot going on to that. But I thought, having somebody to drive around or arrange meals, that would be like the ideal video shoot.
We're happy to help. We actually have a lot of free time right now, even though we have
few
projects on the go. We have a lot of free time, so we're happy to help as friends. It's not a problem.
Oh, well, that would be amazing. I have not decided yet whether I should go with plan A, which is the full-fledged, like, throw a lot of money at it and have it all done very professionally with a full camera crew, or a bare bones, like I do everything myself, which is possible. Obviously, I've been editing this program on my iPhone 6, like way old thing, and still managing to get a decent product, I think, for what it is. But so I ordered a gimbal online yesterday, which will give me nice steady video in the future, and I could program it to even like record, like set at point A, point B, or to follow me around. So it's like feasibly I could actually record a lot of video of myself on location and have it look quite professional and edit it myself, or the B plan, which is somewhere in between those two. I'm leaning towards A because there are quite a number of, I work with a lot of camera crews for things and know a lot of people that could help out with that, but I think maybe I'm going to look into crowdfunding this project. Artists all around the world currently, because of the corona pandemic, are starving more than usual, without being able to perform live and the venues and such. Thankfully, I'm very diversified, so I haven't had concerts, but it's not a huge part of my income typically. Just one small factor of many. But I think it would be really great to kind of let's support artists in this time in unique ways. Maybe crowdfunding part of that project so it could be the best quality might be a good way to garner interest and also promote our beautiful island. So yeah, anyway, that's my news. Wow. So I feel like we got a really great taste of what Hokkaido Nature Tours is about.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I think you've persuaded everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And so everybody who's listening or watching, you can go to HokkaidoNatureTours.com. Everything is in English, I assume, from what you said before. And check out the tours that are happening or customize it yourself. I know the staff there is going to do very well for you. And of course,
what do you recommend for this summer?
This summer, well, it's a great time to come. There's not going to be crowds, so that's awesome. A lot of the places that, like maybe Tomita Farm, Shikisai no Oka, these famous flower fields in Furano BA that are usually super crowded, they're going to be it's going to feel like midweek every day. So that's really cool. But yeah, for the summer, it could be, really what the interest of the people are. Some people want to see the main sites. So of course, Furano BA is so beautiful, or Eastern Hokkaido, always very beautiful, all the way out to Shiratoko, the UNESCO World Heritage Shiratoko Peninsula with all the bears, as well as the Lake District, like Lake Mashu and Lake Akan, Lake Kusharo. So lakes, flower fields, and then, the usual activities. A lot of the activity operators did take a break during the last few months, but now they're coming back to work. So whether that means cultural DIYs, food DIYs, agro-tourism, and of course hiking and trekking. So my personal favorite, going up high into the mountains, can be day hikes or overnight hikes, staying at mountain huts, camping, just getting out into the nature, waterfall trails. We have all levels. So the summertime is really the great variety, and some of it's a bit seasonal, right? So even within the summer. So you have the lavender peaking in July at like Tomita Farm is famous, or East Lavender Farm, also in Furano. And then when you get into August, and you have the Sunflower Festival, where Hokuryu is the famous sunflower festival. And you haven't been, it's amazing. No. It's millions of sunflowers, and you're gonna feel like you're in a computer-generated image, because it's just sunflowers everywhere. It's really cool. So yeah, just getting out into the nature and whatever people are enjoying. It can be maybe kayaking, sea kayaking, lake kayaking, canoeing. There's just so much variety, and easily, it's easy to go on our website and go. You'll see that there's a number of different contact forms according to what you're interested in. So it can be day trips or 2-day tours, which some of those itineraries or plans are already online. You can check them out. Or for the custom-made tours, that's where you can choose your preferences. And right on our website, you'll see that on the form, you can choose all different categories. So it can be wildlife or nature sightseeing or gourmet or camping or hiking, whatever. There's so many categories there. You can choose them. And then the process is we reply, and, we will talk about, trying to fine-tune the interest a little bit and take it from there and create itineraries. But summer is just a great time to get out and about. And there's so much on offer. Fruit picking is also awesome. I know a lot of people in Hokkaido don't go fruit picking, and it's a shame because it's so great, Such a great way to not only eat a ton of fruit, but be out in nature and get that great vitamin D, that's so important for our health.
Oh, yeah. I have some amazing memories in my early days here where I went with some friends to Yoichi. Mm-hmm. And there's like this great orchard where you pay, at the time, it was like 800 yen, so about $8 to all you can eat fruit. They just ask like you not waste it. So you have a basket, and if you have fruit left over, then you would pay for whatever you take out of the park according to weight and whatever the prices are. Funny story, my group of friends noticed they had a bunch of blackberry briars out in the parking lot, and they were just like falling off and going to waste. And so we were picking them, and then somebody was like, "Oh, you have to pay for those." We're like, "Oh, sorry," So we like carried these huge bags in and paid for them. I maybe 1 or 2 bags did not actually get
Paid for.
Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna come for you now. They're gonna come for you.
Well, I think there's a statute of limitations, so. But yeah, it was like beautiful. Just take a picnic blanket and you can bring in like your own food, like onigiri rice balls or bentos, and have something besides just fruit to eat, and just nap out in the sun. And of course it's very seasonal, but from cherries to apples, plums, not a lot of peaches up here in Hokkaido, I don't think, but and then grapes later in this season.
So super.
It's fantastic.
Berries, actually, we'll be starting blueberry season. That's about mid-July. So you can go and just, pick a few kilograms of blueberries and make your pies or freeze them.
And haskap, maybe it's a similar season.
And what is haskap? Because a lot of people don't know what haskap is. It's kind of localized, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite unique to Hokkaido and just a few other places in the world, I believe. I believe it is called the honeysuckle berry.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And it's not grown on a honeysuckle plant. It's a bush very similar to blueberries, I think. A bit darker purple and elongated and quite tart if you're going to eat it on its own. But of course, like any berry, add a bunch of sugar and it's fabulous.
You see,
and
so
like
you're ready to guide. You're ready to...
Yeah, and like the Toyota new Vision is actually named after that berry, Haskap Vision. I don't know why. Or maybe Haskap has a broader meaning, but...
Yeah, but Hokkaido is kind of branding the Haskap as one of its, signature foods.
It is very unique to here.
All the seafood and dairy.
Yeah, better than Scallop Vision.
Oyster Vision, yeah.
Oyster Vision.
All right. Well, Ido, really, it's been a pleasure to have you on this episode. And we look forward to seeing how you take this new direction of opening up your tours to people already living here in Japan. And definitely, if there's anything we can do to help with future promotions, let us know when you have something going on, because our listeners, of course, will benefit greatly from knowing about your great offers and deals. So right now, 10% to 20% off, depending on the size of your tour. That sounds fantastic. And I'm very tempted to try and plan something for my family here too.
Yeah, for your family.
One last question.
Yeah, sure.
If we're going to go hiking or doing something that is a bit out of the usual course of just going on vacation, do you provide the gear for that, or will people have to be prepared with?
Yeah, we have a lot of gear that we provide for free, and some of it is just very small rental charge just for washing and maintaining the gear. But things like hiking sticks, or if we go for overnight to stay in a hut, we can provide the sleeping bags, the sleeping mats. To go camping, we have tents, and we have a lot of that gear. Clothing, obviously, and footwear, people need to provide on their own. And of course, the guides will have safety equipment like a first aid kit and water filtration and things like that we need to have here. Bear whistle, bear spray, things like that. So we'll take care of all of that. Yeah, we hike with bear spray. That's a safety precaution we use.
I've never heard of bear spray.
Depends where. If we're, for example, on Mount Takachidake, where there's not even one tree because it's all this blown out volcano, you don't need bear spray. But if we're hiking through some tight gorge or very forested area, it's smart to have it. You don't need all the equipment, and any equipment you don't have, we can provide either free or with very cheap rental. So we are used to it, and likewise in the winter, for winter tours, we provide all the snowshoe equipment, and that's all free, because that's part of the activity actually, is the snowshoeing and the gaiters and the poles. That's basic equipment. So we are happy to help provide equipment. And basically our expertise and our experience. And for hiking, on a clear weather day, it's really easy, right? Hiking, and you can feel like, hiking is not a dangerous activity. But Hokkaido's weather is incredibly unstable, and especially for going to the higher peaks and Daisetsuzan or other areas. Or, for certain places that have higher, more issues with bears. It's really important to have the local experience. And like I said, there's been unfortunately a number of accidents in Hokkaido over the years. Some of them very high profile. We've had an accident here in the middle of the summer. That was in 2008 summer, where 11 people died of hypothermia at the top of the Setsuzan.
Oh,
And that's
Wow.
it was in the middle of the summer, in early August, from a storm that blew in and they weren't prepared. So
Right.
yeah, it's really important to have that local knowledge when the weather turns bad, when the conditions are not ideal. And we know from Hokkaido, being an island in the north, the weather is variable. So, I do recommend safety first. There's a lot of great resources online for people who do want to self-hike. But if you're not feeling super confident, if you're feeling like you're going to have worry and stress, you can spend your money in a lot of ways and a lot of worse ways than hiring a guide to make the most out of your day and keep you safe and make sure you're enjoying yourself. So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much. And we look
thank
forward to seeing how things turn around. And we know you are going to turn it around. So we're going to finish up this episode. Everybody, please, if you would like to ask a question regarding Hokkaido, Japan at large, you can always reach us at anythinggoeshokkaido@gmail.com. Also, we are very active on Facebook and Instagram. And not really Twitter, just because it's connected to the Instagram account, but I think you can follow us there as well. Just handle mark Anything Goes Hokkaido. You can find me at Delana Miyazaki for Instagram and Twitter, and Delana Live for my music and other public personality related things on Facebook. And Shinya is Shinstagrams with an underscore in between on Instagram. Ido, anything else we should know where we can follow you on social media? Are you active there as far as...
Oh, yeah. We have all the social media as well, Facebook and Instagram. You can follow some of our guides also. So Hokkaido Nature Tours, that's our main accounts. And beyond that, also YouTube, we're uploading cool videos all the time, some promo videos, some drone videos, some local videos. You can check us out on YouTube as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, even if you're just coming to visit Hokkaido and you have some questions, you can always send us an email. We are happy to share our knowledge with everyone. So yeah, we hope to hear from people.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. We will see you again next week. And who knows what lies in store yet. Anything goes. Shitake.
はい、お疲れ様です。ありがとうございます。
お疲れ様です。
Bye, Delana.
Once again, a huge thank you to everyone who's made this episode possible, especially our guest Ido Gabay from Hokkaido Nature Tours. Be sure to go to HokkaidoNatureTours.com and check out the special deals they have going on for residents of Japan and see how you can support local businesses here in our beautiful island of Hokkaido. We look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, everybody, and don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll see you soon.